Okay, everyone, welcome to our last monthly meeting of the year. This meeting is for the PRISM undergraduate research program, but our junior scholars program is also invited and also is open to the whole John Jay Science and Math community. Today we have a couple of speakers. The meeting today will be to discuss the New York City LifeSci program, which is an internship program for in the city of New York for potential internships in the biotech industry. And these internships are in many fields, from straight up bench work to computer science. For that, we have Ms. Sharon Kaplan and Ms. Kaylin Mayo, who's gonna talk to us in a bit. But first, we're gonna be talking with Dr. Yayara Fortis from Memorial Sloan Kettering, who's gonna briefly talk about a couple of their summer programs before we move on to Sloan Kettering. So I'm going to Yayara, if you want, I made you a co-host so you can take over the screen or whatever you need.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much, Edgardo. And hi, everyone. I hope you had a nice long weekend, hopefully with some restful time. And I want to thank Edgardo for allowing me the opportunity to be in front of you. I actually don't have any slides because I decided I just want to talk to all of you about the programs that we have available at MSK. This is Memorial Sloan Kettering Cancer Center. We are located here in New York City. You might or not might be familiar with us, but we are close in proximity to Rockefeller University and Weill Cornell. We call it the Tri-I Institution, and we have a very robust portfolio of research. We have about 125 labs at Memorial Sloan Kettering, and through those labs, we are able to host in any given year, about 80 summer students. And those summer students come through us through 5 different pipeline programs. The 5 names of those programs are the SERP, which is a summer undergraduate research program. This is our umbrella program, and it covers the majority of cancer biology topics. And most of our labs are included in that program. So when you apply, you don't have to apply to a specific lab. You kind of disclose your interest in cancer biology. The other 4 programs that I'm going to mention, they are more discipline specific. So we have a program for molecular imaging, have another program for engineering, one for computational biology, and one for chemical biology. So for those programs, in your essays and in your materials, you're going to have to make a case for your interest and your background in pursuing a summer opportunity for those programs. Something that all of our programs have in common is that they have the same stipend. It's about $6,000 for the 10 weeks that you are with us. And if you are not local, so if you don't live in New York, we are able to offer housing to you. Or if you are in New York but need housing over those 10 weeks, we could also extend that offer to you. And housing is free, it's complimentary for the duration of the program. We are envisioning these 5 summer programs to run in person next summer. We want to remain very hopeful about vaccination and the pandemic being under control. I know, Kat, I'm also crossing my fingers. So if that's the case, students will have the opportunity to be in person. But if the circumstances don't allow for students to be in person, then we are going to be doing a summer virtual opportunity. Or could also be a combination of a hybrid. So if we are almost there but not quite there by the beginning of June, we might pick to do 1 month remotely and 2 weeks in person at the end, so that the students get more familiarized with our lab space and our facilities. So that's what we have for summer. Our summer programs also have a lot of professional development. So you not only learn about the research in the lab that you're part of, but you're also able to take a class or a workshop on how to write statements, how to develop a social media presence. We have mental health seminars, and you are welcome to take any of the classes that we also offer that are very specific to skill building. For example, flow cytometry is one of our more popular courses. So depending what is it that you are looking to gain for your experience, you could then get hooked up with the classes. And furthermore, we are going to be piloting next summer, or starting next summer, a bridge program at MSK. And for that program, we are going to be able to onboard 3 students. It's going to be very small, it's a pilot. And our hopes is that that pilot program allow us to develop some foundation for a prep-like program. A prep program is usually a 1-year program that students do after their college degree to gain some more research experience in a lab and potentially enhance their research acumen and potentially present, get a publication so that they are more, they are able to put stronger applications in the next graduate school cycle. So if any of these of what I just presented is interesting to you, please contact me. I will put my email in the chat. And you could also connect with us on social media. There are 2 accounts to do that on Twitter, and I will put that also on the chat. And I'm happy to take maybe a few questions, Edgardo, if time allows.
Yeah, I think so. If anybody has any particular question.
Hi, I'd like to ask a question. I've actually already been looking into the programs, and specifically I was looking at Dr. Chiosis's lab.
Yes.
So on an application, would I specify her lab like as the place that I want to work in for the molecular imaging? It's specifically her work regarding the chaperone mechanisms and like stress, which I found just really interesting, and her research regarding neurodegenerative diseases.
So that's a great question. I will provide specific advice and then maybe a little bit a more targeted advice for MSK. I think as you all are navigating statements of purposes for the different programs that you are applying, both grad school, summer programs, or prep, it is always look as a strength if you are able to talk about research that might interest you in that place. So in this case, because you have identified a particularity of chiosis that it's interesting to you, it's a wonderful example on how you might want to spend 3 or 4 sentences in your statement talking about that. You don't have to know it all, but at least if you're able to justify how is that interesting to you and what do you hope to gain if you end up working with someone like her, that is a strength of any statement. That is true for summer programs, and it's also true for graduate school. And I hope that answered your question. And I forgot to mention, our deadline for the summer programs is going to be February 3rd for the majority of our programs. And for the SERP program, which is the umbrella program, the deadline is February 1st. So in those 3 days, you have to, if you want to work with us, you have to submit your application. That is, of course, there is no application fee. These are summer programs. Our grad school also doesn't have an application fee. And in terms of requirement, you're going to have to submit a statement of purpose for the summer programs. I believe it's 2 or 3 letters of recommendation. I think it's 2 probably, and a transcript of how far along you are in your journey. We tend to prefer people that are juniors and sophomores, depending on the arm and how much experience you have had in lab, plus the classes that you've taken. In the computational program, this is slightly different because now that everyone is virtual, you might be able to demonstrate that you have a lot of computational skills. So make sure you emphasize that in your statements and materials. I'm going to include the Twitter links on the chat, and thank you. I don't know any other question. I'm happy to answer before I take more time.
I have a question.
Perfect.
Thank you so much for your workshop today. So my question is, if the program bridge is available for graduating senior international students?
So no, that's one of the problem with these programs. It's going to be open to only domestic students for the time being. This has to do with the funding mechanisms of the program. It's not necessarily that we don't want to include internationals, it's that the funding sources are going to require that the students are domestics. So thank you for the question. And if you're interested in that bridge program, I am your person. We have not established a portal for the application, so you will have to connect with me and I will send you an email with what are the requirements to apply for that bridge program.
Thank you so much.
Okay, if there are no more questions, then thank you very much, Yayara. And I'm looking forward to many students spending the next summer at MSK. And the rest of them will be at LifeSci New York. And for that, I will leave you, Sharon and Kaylin, is your meeting.
Well, thank you. I have to jump out, but thank you so much. And I'm putting on the chat the last thing that I offer, which was the other Twitter account. Thank you so much. And thank you, Edgardo.
All right, thank you all. I'm going to start just sharing my screen for our presentation. So give us a second. All right, okay, great. So welcome everybody. Thank you for joining us today. Just to start off with an introduction, my name is Kaylin Mayo. I'm the program coordinator of the LifeSci NYC Internship Program, and you'll also be hearing from our program director, Sharon Albert Kaplan, later on in the presentation. And we just left our email at the bottom of this slide, so we'll be having a Q&A at the end of the presentation, but if you have any questions after the presentation that you think of, don't hesitate to reach out to us. And as Edgardo mentioned, this will be recorded and we'll send you the slides, so don't worry about having to take any screenshots or anything. So just to start off with some background information about our program, we are a component of the New York City Economic Development Corporation's 10-year, $500 million initiative to grow the life sciences industry in New York City. And we offer paid 10-week summer internships for college students, recent grads, graduate students, and in either the science track or the business management track. And we'll talk more about some of the different positions we offer as we go along. We are also recruiting for fall, spring, and winter internships, as well as some full and part-time jobs. And we're in the 4th year of our program. So in addition to our main program, the summer internship program, we do offer roles outside of the summer internship time. And even all those roles are also paid. So this question, what does the life sciences mean? Some of you may immediately come up with an answer. Some of you may not have an exact answer. And we break this industry up into a few different categories where we see many of our companies and organizations fall. So we have the pharmaceutical industry. This is the industry that's definitely talked about a lot in times of COVID. Many of the largest companies in the life sciences industry are in pharmaceuticals and in drug development, but we also have many other organizations that work in industries such as working on medical devices. We have many hospitals as well as other organizations that support patient care, either dealing directly with patients or creating different things that support patients and help patients to have a better experience in the healthcare industry. We also have many new startups, especially working within the digital health sector. Anything from an app on your phone that tracks your health to a Fitbit, something that you wear, software. All of these are part of this digital health sector that's definitely growing really rapidly. And then lastly, we have many organizations that support all of these industries in the life sciences, all these different sectors. So we have venture capital firms and investment firms that are providing funding to many startups. We have marketing firms that focus directly on the life sciences and biotech and healthcare. And then we have many other marketing firms, data analysts, firms that support the industry, even if you may not necessarily think of them as a life sciences company. So here is a sampling of most of our companies that we worked with in 2020. I'm sure looking through these, you may recognize a couple of these companies, but I would bet that many of these are not familiar. And that's due to the fact that many of the companies we work with in New York City are really small startups and the industry is pretty young. And so even though if you get placed in an internship, you may work for a larger company like Pfizer, most likely you'll find a position at a small startup. And we think that's exciting because oftentimes you get to work directly with the CEO, the chief operating officer, the chief scientists, the founders of the company, and really get in on the ground level of many of these companies. So as we mentioned, we have all these different groupings in the life sciences, and here you can see the breakdown of where our companies have fallen. So of course, many of them in the pharma, biotech, diagnostic section, but we do work with some that are in hospitals and academic medical centers. Again, we have the small but growing section of digital health and health tech. In addition to all these for-profit companies, we do also work with nonprofit organizations, foundations, providing funding again into the life sciences through grants or as an incubator, as well as some research foundations. And then on the right side of the screen, we also have these other companies that may not as neatly fall into the life sciences, but provide vital support for our companies in the life sciences. So moving on to speak about student eligibility, you must be able to work in the US to be able to work through our program. We're open not only to US citizens and permanent residents, we're also open to DACA participants and international students as well, as long as your visa allows you to work in the US without sponsorship. So most international students that we've had as interns have had an F1 visa and use CPT or OPT. We've seen a couple other variations, but definitely you have questions about whether you require sponsorship, reach out to the International Students Department at your school. You can also ask us later on as well. You also must be enrolled in a college or university in New York City or be a recent graduate, which I'm assuming all of you are. And then you also, if you're from New York City, but you go to school elsewhere, you're eligible for our program. We have this requirement because we are a city program and we want to make sure that all of these opportunities in this growing industry are going to people from New York City. So our summer program, we're open to recent grads from May 2020 or later. We have a little more flexibility in terms of your graduation date if you're applying for non-summer roles, especially since some of those may be full-time permanent roles. And then we're also open, as I mentioned at the beginning, from undergraduate students all the way to your master's degree, your PhD or postdoc, and again, recent graduates. And the last thing we have on our eligibility section is a 3.0 GPA. We certainly don't disqualify you if your GPA is below this, but we do have a space on our application where you can explain any extenuating circumstances or give any context as to why your GPA is lower. So you can explain that you worked full-time outside of school, as you switched majors, you're currently working on bringing your GPA up, there's a family emergency or other responsibilities you had outside of school. We just want to see that you have some reason or explanation as to why your GPA may be lower. So I mentioned at the beginning that we often group these positions into a science track or a business management track. So on this slide, we show many of the different positions that may fall within these two different tracks. This is how many of our positions are organized, but of course, there may be some overlap. There may be an R&D role at a small startup where if you have an interest in it, you may be asked to also work on business development or any other overlap between these. And this is just to show that we are open to all majors, regardless if you have a degree in biology or not, as long as you're interested in the life sciences, you're eligible for the program. And then here's just a little bit more of a breakdown. So these are a list of the position titles that we had we've had in previous years. Many of these will be listed again. There may be a few that aren't listed this coming year, but as you can see, we have a really wide variety of positions. Again, all the way from your R&D roles, laboratory technician positions, to a data analysis role, business development, marketing, and everywhere in between. So here we have our program timing. Our application is currently open, and we have an early preferred deadline of December 31st that we recommend you submit your applications by for our summer internship program. This is not the same deadline for all of our roles that fall outside of the summer program, because those will be adding just throughout the year into the summer and starting next year as well. So we don't have a deadline for our non-summer roles. But we recommend applying early because we will be adding positions. We have positions listed currently. And so if you wait till our final deadline of March 31st, you may have missed some roles that were filled already for the summer. And we're working on placing students into internships on a rolling basis. We've placed 2 interns so far for the summer, and we'll be placing more and more as the months go on. So if you are placed in an internship, before your internship begins in the summer, we have a 3-day boot camp. It's just a great event for all of our interns to get together, to get to know each other, not only network with each other, but also be able to interact with industry professionals, industry experts. We have different professional development workshops and career panels as well. And then after that 3-day boot camp, most internships begin June 1st and will end August 6th. So from now till then, we're working on placements, and then summer internships will begin and last for 10 weeks. So here we just have some images where you can see our boot camp, as well as some other events that we've hosted for interns. So I'm sure you can tell which event happened this past summer, versus which events happened in previous years. So we have our virtual boot camp. It will likely be virtual again for this coming summer, but we do hope that we'll be able to have some in-person events later on in the summer. And so the boot camp is happening before your internships start, but we do offer events that happen in the evening time, just again, so you can connect with other interns. We've had site visits so you can tour other facilities, again, additional career panels, and then just other, again, social and networking opportunities, such as a pizza party in Brooklyn Bridge Park. And this is just, again, so that you can continue to build these relationships with your other intern cohort, since you'll all be going to different internships throughout the city. So to go over the placement process, I mentioned that our applications are open. You can apply on our website at LifeSci NYC. Once you submit your application to our program, you'll get access to our current job listings page, our internship listings. And from there, you'll submit cover letters for each of the specific positions you're interested in. From there, me and Sharon will be reading your applications to our program and your cover letters, and we'll send the applicants we think are a good fit on to the companies who make the final decision in terms of who they would like to hire or interview at that point. So we provide the first screening and filtering out applications, but the company you're applying to specifically makes the final call who they would like to interview and hire. Just some notes for non-summer applicants. We have a comprehensive summer application, but we will not be asking you to fill out all of the same information. If you're only applying for non-summer roles, we'll just be looking at your cover letter and resume, and you'll answer just a couple short questions. And we also have this link at the bottom of the page, which you'll get access to when we send the slides, and it just lists the positions that we have available for all of our non-summer roles. Again, in order to view the summer positions, you must apply to the program first, but we do provide these non-summer positions if you would like to see what kinds of positions we're offering. And this document will direct you back to our application link. So just to go over or I believe, is this where you start off, Sharon?
You can keep going and I'll start.
Actually, before we continue, I would like to remind everyone that we are recording this, and I'm just going to show the disclaimer if I can find that in my 15 screens. Oh, here it is. Where is it? There you go. No, that's not it. I just want to show the disclaimer to please remember that if you would prefer to not have your likeness or voice recorded, to either keep your camera off or to use the chat function to communicate with us.
Yep, so again, if you come up with any questions, we'll answer them at the end, but feel free to put them in chat now as you think of them. So just to go over a little more detail about the placement process, for our summer program, on the left side of the screen is the different pieces of the application that we're looking for. So you'll submit your resume to us. You'll also answer 2 personal statements. So one of them where you express your interest in the program and in the life sciences industry, and another personal statement where you express what kind of work you're interested in. Sharon's going to talk a little bit more about how to create strong personal statements. But again, you don't have to, it's okay if you don't have an exact idea of exactly what kind of work you would like to do or your exact career path, but we want to see that you put some thought into what kind of work you're interested in. We also have an optional video that you can submit, just 2 to 3 minutes. Doesn't have to be anything with fancy production values or animation, but it's a great way to help your application to stand out. You'll also list your academic transcript, which can be an unofficial copy. You'll list extracurricular leadership activities. We mentioned the GPA requirement, any honors or awards that you have. And then you'll list the contact information for 1 to 2 recommendations. And as soon as you put the contact information for these recommenders, our system will trigger an email to them asking them to fill out a form. So definitely reach out to your recommenders before you put their contact information in, and make sure that they're okay with being with filling out a short form for us. Again, unfortunately, applications are not guaranteed placement, just because there are so many wonderful students and not enough positions for all of you, but we will discuss how to create a strong application, and we definitely recommend applying earlier rather than later. And so we're evaluating you on 3 main pieces. We want to see that you have genuine interest in a career in the life sciences. Regardless, again, if you have majored in biology or you're just starting to take some classes in the life sciences, or you have a background that's a little bit outside of the life sciences. I believe most of you are interested in the sciences already through your academic coursework, but don't take for granted that you are a biology or chemistry major. We still want to know, why did you decide to choose that major? Why are you interested in the life sciences? And whatever is true for you will read well for us. We also are looking to rate you on your professional and personal maturity and integrity. We'll gather this from how you've submitted all of your application materials. We'll also gather this from your recommendation that's submitted. And then lastly, we're looking at the technical skills that you have and that you'd like to continue to develop. So if you have great tech skills, great computer science skills, and you're interested in going into computer science or using your computer science skills for this industry, we'll look at that. But if you do not have any background in the computer science, then we will not be evaluating you on those tech skills. We just want to see that whatever work you would like to do and what you're studying, you have listed some of these skills. And then again, for non-summer positions, we will not be evaluating you on the personal statements, your transcript, and extracurriculars, unless those are listed in your resume. We'll just be looking at your resume and cover letter. Okay, so now to the application, which I'll hand it over to Sharon.
Hello, it's so nice to be here today talking to you all. I'm going to talk a little bit about how to put together a strong application for our program. Let's start with the personal statements. So your personal statements should be specific and concrete. You'll see that we give word limits, and you don't need to, fill up every last word to the word limit. But if it tells you that it's a 500 word limit, it's a pretty good indication that we want more than 2 sentences. So just take that into account. We do really want to hear from you here. The first one, as Kaylin mentioned, is going to ask why you're interested in this program and why you're interested in the life sciences. And I really recommend that you put some thought into this. There's no right or wrong answer. We want to hear what the specific situation is for you, but we want to hear why you're interested. And it might be something from earlier in your life. It might be a class that inspired your interest, or a professor, or some specific interest you have. We just want to hear why you're interested. And even if you are a major in an area outside of the specific life sciences, if you're a psych major or an econ major, those are absolutely valid. We just want to hear, why do you want to take your skills and use them in the context of the life sciences industry? This will help us understand that your interest is genuine and that you're not just applying for everything that's out there. And then the other main personal statement, we're going to ask you what kind of work you're interested in doing this summer, and what kind of place you'd like to work in. And again, no right or wrong answer. And you also don't have to have only one answer here. There may be several areas that you're interested in, and it's definitely great to list several areas of interest, but we just want to see that you have put some thought into this. Don't be vague or abstract. We want to hear your concrete reasons for the things that we're asking, and just really read the questions carefully to make sure that you're answering all aspects of them. As Kaylin mentioned, there's an option to include a video. This does not need to be anything with fancy production values. You can film it on your phone or your laptop, and it should just be 2 to 3 minutes long. But it's a way to make your application stand out from the whole pile, both for Kaylin and me, as well as for hiring managers. We're seeing a lot of written materials as we're considering these applicants. So we're looking at a lot of resumes, a lot of cover letters, a lot of application essays. And sometimes it can be hard to remember one from the other later on, though we're certainly focusing on it while we're reading it. So if you put together a video that clearly demonstrates your passion, because we're hearing it in person from you, that makes it more memorable. It's great to put a face to a name, and it's just a way to make your application stand out. We have found that in the past, among those who have been hired from this competitive process, that more of those who were hired had done videos than among the general population who applied. So that's just something to keep in mind. I think we're going to move to the next slide. Okay, so you want to emphasize your interest in the life sciences, as I mentioned, whether you have past experiences in the industry or you just have a desire to work there in the future. And then the next thing is super important for all aspects of your application, and in fact, any application for any job that you're submitting. You want to proofread everything to the nth degree. Make sure that you don't have any mistakes in spelling, in grammar, in formatting, for instance, on your resume. All the positions that we are putting out there are competitive, as is probably anything that you're applying for. So you don't want to give the hiring manager any reason to eliminate you, because they are looking for ways to whittle down the field. So make sure that everything is perfect so that you are there on your merits, and that's all they have to look at. There's no reason to automatically eliminate you from consideration. We do recommend that you compose your answers to personal statements in an application like Word or Google Docs, or something that will spell check it for you before copying it into our application platform. It's also a good idea to ask someone else to look at it, because if you've worked really hard on something, you've looked at it a million times, sometimes it's easy to gloss over those small mistakes, but those might jump out to somebody who's looking at it with a new set of eyes. Sometimes it also helps to read something out loud, and you'll see if you've forgotten a small word or something like that. With your resume, you want to make sure that it's perfect and it's up to date. I will talk a little bit more about the resume later, but that is another important thing to proofread. Finally, your recommendations do matter. For summer applicants, we do require that you provide the name and email address of at least one reference. We often get asked, does it have to be a professor? And no, it does not need to be a professor. It can be anybody but a friend or family member. If you do have a professor who can speak knowledgeably about your skills and interest in the life sciences, that is great, but it is not required. The major thing for a reference is we're looking for somebody who can speak to your positive qualities, your work ethic, your character. And then what we always recommend that you do with any reference is, number one, make sure you ask their permission before you provide their name. Once you put their email into our application, it's going to trigger an email to that person asking them to fill out a form on your behalf. So you don't want that to come as a surprise to them. People don't like that. The other thing that we recommend you do is, once they do say, and I see Edgardo nodding his head there, once they do say that yes, they'll provide a reference for you, give them a little cheat sheet on you. Remind them, for instance, if they're your professor, what classes you took with them, what projects you conducted, or essay topics you wrote on. Also explain to them why you're interested in this program and what you hope to do this summer. And just give them a little summary of your qualifications and your goals. It'll just make it that much easier when they fill out the reference on your behalf. They'll have things that are already there. They're apt to say more about you and have more time to think about all the really great things they want to say about you, because they're not desperately trying to remember how much you know about the field. You've already told them that. So now I'm going to talk a little bit about your resume. This is one of the most important things that's going to get you in the door when you're doing any kind of job hunting. We have a link here, which again, you'll be able to access later when you receive a link to the recording of this session. But this article from LinkedIn is really useful in helping to explain how to make those bullet points on your resume underneath specific jobs or specific projects really productive towards convincing a potential employer how qualified you are for a job. It helps you figure out how to make those bullet points be action oriented and show how you have applied specific skills rather than just providing vague indications of what you've done. So I do recommend this article. Some of the things that we recommend that you be sure to include on your resume is make sure that your skills are easy for a hiring manager to see. Sometimes some hiring managers, the resume is their main first look at whether they're going to spend a little extra time on any given candidate. And they're often looking to just check some important boxes, whatever's important to them. So if it's a computer science job, it might be certain computer science languages that they've listed in the job description. If it's a lab job, again, it might be certain lab procedures. So just make sure that all your relevant skills are listed and easy to see. So if you're going for a lab position, make sure you include all your analytical skills, the lab procedures you've mastered, and the equipment that you know how to use. Whether you're a computer science person or just somebody who has other computer science skills, make sure you list your software languages and other programming that you're capable of. And definitely include any actual languages that you speak or are proficient in. And just a word of caution in terms of listing any skills, make sure that you're honest about them. You don't want to get an interview based on something that you've put on your resume, and then in that interview, the interviewer, if you say that you can speak Chinese, you never know, they might start talking to you in Chinese. So, if you only speak beginning Chinese, then just be honest about that on your resume. You can, say that you have conversational proficiency or whatever level you're at. And that goes for other things as well. You can, say that if you have beginning proficiency, and that's fine. We strongly encourage, if you're looking for a research job, that you include any research experience that you have on your resume. Now, I know that there's a constant dilemma for many people, like, oh, you need to have already had an internship to get an internship. And yes, that can make it easier, but I do have some advice if you've not had an internship before and you're looking for a research position. What you want to do is you want to highlight projects that you've done in class. So if you haven't had a research position outside the classroom, pick a few major projects that you've done in recent classes and put them on your resume along with a few bullet points each. And you can look at that article I mentioned to see how to make those bullet points really strong indicators of what you're capable of. But projects can be almost as useful on your resume as having had a job if you put them on there in a way that can convince a hiring manager that, yes, they're hiring somebody who understands how to use these methods and how to analyze them and could jump right in if they were needed to do so in an employment context. And the other thing that I do recommend, and I know this is really difficult during a pandemic, but I'm going to give you the advice just for going forward, is if you do want to ultimately work in a lab, definitely talk to your professors. And I know a lot of you are in Edgardo's program, so that you may already be doing some research at school, but ask your professors if they have any need for assistance in the lab or know of anybody else in the department who does, because often these positions are not advertised and they go to whoever expresses interest, and it can be really great thing to put on your resume, and you can really learn a lot that way. And often these positions can even be paid, so that's excellent too. On your resume, definitely include any leadership roles that you've played in clubs and organizations and extracurricular activities, awards, and honors you've received. Think about the fact that many of the roles that you've played in extracurriculars may be very applicable to skills you need for employment. So give it a little thought and make sure that you present them in a way that shows, perhaps your PR skills. Like, you may not have ever taken a PR class, but if you have worked in an organization and done the social media for a club event or something like that, you have a lot more skills than you might think that might be applicable in a business context. Your GPA is not something that is required to be on your resume, and if it's not there, nobody is going to look at your resume and say, oh, I wonder why they didn't put their GPA there. It's just something to put there if you feel like it's something that represents you in a really positive light. So if you have a high GPA, by all means put it there. If your GPA is not your best selling point, then just leave it off. It's not necessary. And once again, make sure you proofread everything. You want to make sure that margins are lined up correctly, that formatting is consistent, that font size is consistent. You want to make sure it's up to date. We often get cover letters from students who may mention some kind of current experience that they have that's really great experience for the job they're applying for. And then we refer to their resume to try to get some additional details about that experience. And they've not yet even put that on their resume. So make sure that you always update your resume and that the entries that are on there have been updated as well. So if, for instance, you have now graduated from a program, you want to make sure that there's a graduation date rather than your resume saying that you're a current senior. And after you apply for our program, you are welcome to update your resume at any time. So you can always email us an updated copy of your resume and say, please update my application, and we'll use that version going forward. And the same goes for transcripts, because each semester, obviously, your transcript is going to have additional information on it. So we're also going to talk about cover letters, which I think is a super important part of applying for a job and tells me a lot about a person's professional skills, not only specifically by what they say in the cover letter, but it also shows their level of professionalism and ready to work in a professional context. So you want to make sure that your cover letter gives examples of your personal experience, that it mentions specific skills that demonstrate your fitness for the role you're applying for, and that you convey genuine interest in the company's mission. You can look at a template in order to learn how to write a strong cover letter. However, I strongly recommend that you don't use that template to actually write your cover letter. There's one template in particular that's floating around out there where we see many students send essentially the same cover letter with just different blanks filled in. And it doesn't tell us much about, say, your writing ability or your confidence in being able to communicate in a professional fashion if you are using the exact cover letter that we have seen 1,000 times. You want to make sure that you tailor each cover letter individually for the company you're applying to and the role you're applying to. You know, whereas the first little introduction of yourself might be the same in all cover letters, the rest is going to be different. And though I know it takes time and it can be tedious, it's really worth it, because you're trying to sell yourself to somebody for a particular job, and this is your one chance to do it. You want to make sure that you're speaking directly to them and telling them what they want to hear. Obviously, make sure it's truthful, but what they want to hear. So here is kind of a breakdown of what a good cover letter will contain. You want to express your interest in the position and the company. Make sure you double check the spelling of the company's name, and make sure you update it from any previous cover letters you may have written. Introduce yourself with your major, your academic year, and the college that you attend. And then finally, and this is the part that's really going to be personalized for each cover letter, emphasize how that company's mission is relevant to your career goals and passions. So you want to be able to show that you've done your research. So make sure that you've looked at the company's website, that you've read the description that they've included in the job description closely. So you understand what the company is working on and what they're interested in doing and what their goals are. It will show that you have genuine interest. And I think that that checks a box when they're looking for people to eliminate from consideration. And then you want to have a section that's speaking directly to the requirements that were listed in the job description. So whatever skills they said were required, whatever experience they said were required, this is where you're going to show that you have those things and you're a good fit. Speak about any applicable skills and research experience that you have, or project experience. Again, if it's not, you know, it doesn't have to have been in a past internship or job. You can always use projects, but it's always better to give concrete examples of how you fulfill a qualification than just by telling. So if they say that they want somebody who's detail oriented and knows how to work on a team, don't just state that you're detail oriented and that you love to work on a team. Give an example. You know, when I worked on such and such a project, it was really important that all these different details had to be attended to, and I made sure that they were all done accurately. I had to work on a team, and everybody had their own job. You know, you want to be specific so they can tell, oh, they understand what I mean when I say that I want somebody who's detail oriented and can work on a team. And then finally, summarize why you're a good fit for the position and thank the hiring manager for their interest and consideration. So here we've just included our website address where you can find more information on our program. And I would also like to invite you all to join our LifeSci NYC Internship Program meetup. We use this group in a couple of ways. We offer occasional career panels and other events of interest to those perhaps pursuing a career in the life sciences. And we also share whenever we add a job that's not a summer internship job, because again, for summer, you have to complete the application in order to even see the listings. But for all of our other positions, we'll give a heads up to those subscribed to our meetup and let them know that we've added a new opportunity to the listings. And that way, if they want to apply, they know that it's just been posted and they can go into our application, even if you've already created a profile on our application, and you can put in a cover letter for that job. We also have held several virtual info sessions this year that are open to everybody, as opposed to a specific school like this one. So if you missed part of today's presentation and you want to see it, or you know somebody else who missed it, we are actually holding one tomorrow, which will be very similar to this session we're offering today. So I'm just putting that link there. And Finally, if you have additional questions or maybe a question about something on your resume or about a specific opportunity that we offer, we do offer office hours where you can sign up for a 10-minute one-on-one session with one of us to ask your specific questions, and we have a link there for that. And now we are going to move on to Q&A. We'll start with the questions in the chat, but feel free to add more questions in the chat as they come to you. And even if it doesn't get too crazy, you can even unmute yourself and ask a question in person. So let's see, I'm going to see what the first question here was. Oh, does the 3-minute video replace the personal statement letter? No, so the 3-minute video is just an option. It's not required. And unlike all the written portions of the application, which are required, the 3-minute video is just a way to make your application stronger and more memorable.
All right, the next question, is it all right to include your extracurriculars from your senior year of high school if you are a freshman? Yes, I think that's fine if you're a freshman. As you go on in your college career and you gain other experiences, you'll probably start ticking off those high school experiences just to keep it more relevant. But if you're a freshman, that's fine.
Let's see, next question. Do our recommendation letters also have to be submitted by December 31st for the early deadline, or is it okay if they're submitted later? So we do recommend that recommendations are submitted within 7 days of your application being submitted. However, we also understand that it's a little bit out of your hands. You want to make sure that you've been clear and asked permission to the recommender so that they will be conscientious about it. But you actually have the ability, if your recommendation doesn't get submitted in a timely manner, you have the ability to go back into our platform and have it send a reminder. If it's been a while, maybe the person has forgotten about it. So while I think recommendation letters can really strengthen your application, we don't penalize you if it doesn't come in a timely manner, but hopefully it will.
How specific should we be on our personal statements? Should we include anecdotes or just describe our interests? Be as specific as you can within the the character and word requirements we have. So if you have, for instance, let's say you have a personal experience that has made you interested in the life sciences, rather than just stating, oh, my personal experience in healthcare made me interested in pursuing a biology degree, you could describe what was that experience. Was it that you or a family member had a negative experience in healthcare, or you had whatever the experience was, you can go into detail about that and explain, why you're interested in the life sciences. You don't need to go into several different anecdotes that would keep your main message focused. But whatever, at the end of it, if you feel you painted a good picture, so we understand that you are interested in working in life sciences, then you completed a successful personal statement.
And I see somebody asked, is there a link for the list of positions available in the different companies? So there is a link available for positions that are available other than summer. So any fall, winter, or spring internships or full or part-time jobs are listed in a document that we have outside our application. And if you decide to apply, it will link you to our application so you can apply. But you have to have applied for summer in order to have access to the current listings for summer availability. If you want to see, the companies that we worked with in the past, they were listed in this presentation. And then the next slide, I believe, was a list of positions that have been offered in the past. And while that's not going to be an exhaustive list of the positions that are offered this summer, I think it gives you a pretty good idea of the breadth and variety of different positions that are available, to give you some ideas if you're looking for ideas as you're writing your application. Do we have any other questions?
What qualities in applicants stand out that gets them accepted? So I'll speak for myself, and maybe Sharon will add on something, but for me, it's just making sure that all your ducks are in a row. Everything is really well organized, well formatted. You answer the question really clearly. The best application is where there are no typos standing out or formatting issues. When I get to the cover letter, I want to see that you have really made a case for yourself as to why the pieces of the job description directly apply to your past experiences. Even if your resume does not show that you've had relevant experience, you've been able to connect your past experiences and show your transferable skills. So we're not looking to see that you've had 3 years of research experience or that you've had financial experience or any of these specific things. I just want to see that you are confident and that you've shown that you have transferable skills that you can apply to this job experience. And yes, and no mistakes are standing out and detracting from that message.
Yeah, I would agree with what Kaylin said. You want to do your best possible job on the application, and you want to speak to what was in the job description in terms of any specific job and make a case for how you are a good fit. Don't feel like once you've applied, you need to all of a sudden apply for 50% of the jobs that are listed there. I really encourage you to only spend your time applying for jobs that you're actually qualified for, because it's not going to do you any good to apply for jobs that you're not at all qualified for. I mean, if there's like a lot of requirements and there's 1 or 2 that you don't fulfill, sure, go ahead and apply. But if they're clearly looking for a graduate student and you're a sophomore, and it's asking for several lab skills that you don't have, don't spend your time applying for it. But if it sounds appealing to you, look at it closely and see what does it require to have that kind of job. And then you can, spend your time going forward. You can say, okay, well, I obviously need to take some specific classes, and you can see what it is because it's in the job description. If I want to be able to do this kind of job in the future, and try to sign up for those kind of classes and learn about those topics and get that kind of experience, and use the jobs that are sort of a little bit above you right now as a way to figure out how you need to prepare yourself if you want to do that kind of job in the future. I think we got another question. I checked the office hours for December and there aren't any spots available. I'm going to turn that one over to Kaylin because she's in charge of our office hours.
So we do add them frequently. They do get grabbed up really quick by students. So I think we've added at this point 2 office hours for a few hours every week. I'll see if we have availability to fit 1 more in December, but because of the holiday season, that sort of eliminates already a week or so in December. But we do have some available in the beginning of January. Again, I'll check back and see if we can add a couple in December. But if you really have, a question you feel is more urgent that you want to speak to us over video, you can email us and we can find some time.
Yeah, and always feel free to email us questions. We try to be really responsive to students. So any question that comes up, whether it's during the application process or during the process of writing cover letters to apply for specific roles, or even after you've applied and you're wondering what your status is, you can always feel free to reach out to us. And we're a very small shop. It's basically just Kaylin and me doing the matching process. So you're not writing into a black hole, you're writing to real people, and we really will try to get back to you in a timely manner. What qualities in applicants stand out that gets them accepted? Oh, did we answer that one already? I guess we did, yeah. Somebody had raised their hand, but I think it went away.
Yeah, it was me actually.
Oh.
I didn't want to interrupt.
Please go ahead.
So I had a question about the video. If we do choose to do a video, what kind of questions should we be answering?
That's a good question, actually. So there's no prescribed thing that you have to cover in a video, but it's a good way to be able to either talk about something that's more difficult to talk about on paper. It's a great way to convey your passion for the field. So some people have used the video to explain and present maybe some past research or project that they worked on that they're really excited about and that demonstrates their skills and excitement for the field. Other people have used it to kind of tell a more personal story about where their interest in the field comes from and what they are hoping to accomplish someday in the field. Some people who have more creative abilities have just gotten really creative and put in animation or other things, which is not at all required in order to have a strong video. But if those are skills that you have, that's a great way for you to be able to show them off. So there's no particular thing you have to do. It's just a way for you to either show your creativity or your passion or explain something that doesn't communicate as well on paper. And it's also if communicating orally is a strength of yours, it's a great way to show that off also, because you can say that that's a strength on paper, but when you actually do it on a video, you're demonstrating.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And I see that we got a comment from Kat, who was a member of our cohort last summer. We were really excited to have a John Jay student there. And I'm sure that if you have questions, you might want to reach out to her because she was a great member of our cohort this past summer.
Okay, I think we'll leave a few seconds if anyone has a last minute question to type in the chat, or again, you can raise your hand. But after that, I think we'll be signing off.
Yeah, and I do want to thank Edgardo for hosting us. You guys are all really, really lucky to have Edgardo in your corner. He is a fabulous advocate for you and he knows how great you all are. So just do him proud and submit fabulous applications to our program, and I hope we can place many of you.